They were in a courtroom, and it was their turn to be tried for assault, kidnapping, torture. They, with 9 of their closest high school friends, kidnapped, mutilated, and tried to light their high school classmate on fire.
When I was in high school, man, I was excited to go to PE and play kickball, and these people were over here burning cigarettes on people.
Helen sees Camelia holding onto herself, shivering. She says, "Someone take off her clothes."
Yeah, they're weird, bro.
And perhaps Helen thought getting her completely naked in public was gonna degrade her.
Yeah, see, it's always that sense of having domination over somebody, humiliating them. I guess it's because it's like the most vulnerable state to get somebody in.
So Coco removed the cigarette from her mouth, stared at it, walked over to naked Camelia, and started burning it all over her chest. John's attorney threw Helen and Coco under the bus.
Bro is not like Yagami.
Everyone was trying to point the finger at Helen. Like the minute that she stepped into that courtroom, she's smirking, she's giggling, she's making like sexy eyes at her boyfriend John.
Ew, she's trying to seduce Light Yagami in the courtroom.
She is not afraid. She just has this cocky expression on her face that a lot of people describe as wanting to punch it off of her.
Hello, in today's video, we are back with my queen, Rotten Mango, Stephanie. The title of today's case is 3 high schoolers smirking in court after burning cigarettes on a classmate's private parts. What? We haven't even made it into the video, not even 1 second in, and already this is disgusting, bro. When I was in high school, man, I was excited to go to PE and play kickball or play soccer or something, and these people were over here burning cigarettes on people. We're the parents. I'm very eager to find out what this case is about from Stephanie, so no, yeah, let's watch this together.
Bada bing, bada boom.
3 international high school students were sitting side by side in a row. We have 18-year-old Helen, her boyfriend John, and Helen's best friend Coco. They're all planning what to do for Helen's 19th birthday that's coming up in literally a few weeks. Helen's like, maybe I'll go visit my parents back in China. Maybe I'll bring John to meet the parents formally for the first time ever. It would be kind of perfect because 6 of their closest friends just flew back to China from California. So they could all reunite and have fun. Helen could drive them around her hometown in her Maserati. I mean, they were all really, really excited.
Oh, she's rich. Nice, okay.
Excitement was pushing them to be a bit goofier. They're poking fun at each other, giggling, whispering. Helen and John, they're still in their puppy love phase, so they're sharing these suggestive looks. They're eyeing each other up and down in front of everyone else in that room. The only time that they really snap out of it was when the door slams open and Helen's arch nemesis, her absolute enemy, walks in. And Helen's thinking, her again. How dare she show her face after everything she put them through? All 3 of the friends, Helen, Coco, and John, they stop talking to glare at her walking into the room.
Who is she? Who is she? Oh wait, is it gonna be the victim?
She never even glances back at them, but they make sure that she can feel their eyes burning holes into the back of her head. They wanted to make her feel as uncomfortable as possible. And then their names were called. Helen, Coco, John. It was their turn, so they stand up, straighten out their shirts, walk up to the front. Unfortunately for them, they were not in 3rd period. They were not standing in front of their teacher. They were in a courtroom, and it was their turn to be tried for assault, kidnapping, torture. They, with 9 of their closest high school friends, kidnapped, mutilated, and tried to light their high school classmate on fire.
Stephanie, ease me into it. Pause. So Coco, John, and Helen were the people that did it. That's crazy. Dude, I thought Helen originally was gonna be the victim because she kind of looked sweet from the first picture. But in this picture, she looks absolutely evil. If anybody looked at me like that in real life, I am running the other way. And also, why does bro low-key have my hairstyle? Except I rock it better. Coco couldn't even show her face. This coward.
They, with 9 of their closest high school friends, kidnapped, mutilated, and tried to light their high school classmate on fire. All because of a Facebook picture and a boy.
They were jealous? Wait, were they jealous? Is this a case of jealousy? All because of a high school boy.
Let's get started. The 6 high schoolers, they looked nervous on the plane. Maybe this is their first time on a long international flight without their parents. They were flying from LAX to Shanghai, China, and they just kept anxiously glancing around the airport. Like the entire time through security, they kept their heads down, almost as if they lift their heads, someone's gonna recognize them. And even now that they're on the plane, they still look a bit anxious, like they're gonna throw up any minute now. They look like they haven't showered. They spent all night packing and rushed to the airport. If you opened up their suitcases, you would likely see that they just shoved everything inside. They didn't neatly fold any of their clothes. They probably left most of their belongings back in California, where they would never be coming back. Because if they ever dare step...
Oh shit, wait. Dude, they were never gonna come back. They were gonna escape to China. I thought they were students in California or something, and then they were gonna go to China just for a little bit for vacation. Wow, they were really trying to escape.
Because if they ever dare step foot on American soil again, they would be arrested and tried for kidnapping and torture. Meanwhile, another flight was headed in the opposite direction. So from Shanghai to California, one by one, 6 families land at LAX. Most of the 6 were middle upper class families in China. I mean, they're not super rich. They're not the upper echelon of society, but they're very well respected in their fields and industries. And yet here they are, canceling every single meeting that month, booking emergency flights, flying to America to handle their kids. They have these emergency meetings amongst them and they're ranting, they're complaining. It's so ridiculous. We did not pay this much in tuition every single year for our children to be treated this way. One mother tearfully spoke up first. My child only watched and she was still arrested. I just don't get it. Like, who do we have to talk to get this resolved? Another parent was almost crying. My son only brought the scissors. He didn't actually even use them on her. The others used the scissors. What's so wrong with just grabbing the scissors for them?
Your Honor, I merely gave the assassin the gun. Why am I getting in trouble?
Asked him to her. The others used the scissors. What's so wrong with just grabbing the scissors for them? They asked him to grab the scissors. And for him to face the same level of charges as the others that actually used the scissors, it's just ridiculous. What kind of justice system is this?
Yeah, it's called accessory to murder.
Another parent stated, we're not rich like all of you guys. You know, we sent our kids abroad. We scraped up every last penny in our savings to give these kids a better future. And now we're spending all of our money on an attorney and our kid could still go to a US prison. All of the parents nodded and agreed. Their children, the ones they saw once or twice a year, the ones that they shipped off to America and sent them big allowances to just keep them quiet, they're good kids. Should they really be judged for merely 5 hours of their entire lives? It was a 5-hour mistake.
A 5-hour mistake. You can tell Stephanie's joking here. Like, she's playfully, like, mocking them. Yeah, a 5-hour mistake. Yeah, I mistakenly, for 5 hours straight, tortured one of my classmates. Oopsies.
Lived 16, 19 years. I mean, how many hours is that total? A lot. This is just 5. They're good kids. And now that the case has gone viral, the parents have to deal with the fact that their children are the most hated high schoolers in all of China. They don't even go to school in China. Now, here's a hypothetical question.
Ooh.
If a group of teenage boys were stuck on a stranded island, how would they survive? How would they maintain some semblance of order? Would someone just start taking charge and everyone would blindly follow? Would there be a fight between 2 people who want to be the leader of the crowd? There's a story of a bunch of British boys, this is a fictional story, of a bunch of British boys that were stranded on an island without any adult supervision. And each passing hour, you just see how these boys start losing their minds. Like, they go deeper and deeper down this hole of madness, and some of them never get out. Initially, they try to keep the peace and order. They replicate society that resembles the one in regular life. They elect a leader, Ralph. Ralph is a pretty reasonable guy. His main focus is getting a signal fire to attract the attention of any passing ships. He's like, we got to create shelter. We got to create a fire because someone's going to flag us down and we need to be safe until they do.
Chat, if we were all stranded on an island, I would be the leader. I think y'all would trust me, right?
We got to create a fire because someone's going to flag us down and we need to be safe until they do. And then there was another boy named Jack. Jack wants to be the one in charge, but he doesn't want to waste his time building a fire or some sort of shelter. He wants to hunt. He keeps telling everyone, vegetables, fruit, grass, leaves, that's not going to do anything for us. If we want to be on this island for a long time and survive, we need meat. Meat is the most important thing. Meat is what's going to keep us going. He decides to lead the hunting group, who is in charge of not only hunting, but keeping the signal fire going. And Jack convinces the group, listen, forget this fire. Nothing is as important as this meat. The rest of the group sees ships passing by. They get excited knowing that their fire is going and they're going to be rescued, only to discover that Jack convinced the other boys that the fire was useless and meat and killing is the answer. Jack almost becomes so fixated on the act of killing his first animal. Jack tries to overthrow Ralph from popularity by convincing the other boys that this is what they were put here on this earth to do, to hunt. It's their purpose. He creates rituals and even creates some sort of beast on the island, this like shadowy monster that's going to kill them all at night. And his belief is if he creates enough fear in the boys, if they have a common enemy, they're all going to be way too scared to go up against him. They will think that the safest spot is under his guidance. They will even go as far to kill another boy because they mistake him as the beast. And in the end, egotistical Jack convinces the other boys to hunt Ralph down like an animal. It is a whole journey that they go through. And in the end, they are rescued by the British Army. And all of the boys have to face the music of what they did on that island when they thought that nobody else was watching, when they thought that there were no consequences. This is the story of the Lord of the Flies.
Somebody in chat said that. Yeah, I saw somebody in chat say Lord of the Flies.
This is the story of the Lord of the Flies. The judge presiding over this international bully case called this exact situation the Lord of the Flies situation, when a group of high school kids with no supervision create their own subculture and they just start creating enemies so vile, so evilly. Someone takes charge, ego gets ahead of them, and they decide to torture people. They literally start hunting other kids like animals. And Oxford High School is that stranded island. Oxford High School is a private school for middle upper class families in China. It's in Roland Heights in Los Angeles. Yeah, it's in the San Gabriel Valley area. It's a well-known Asian district, strong population of Chinese and Koreans. So you would imagine.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that there was that in California, like a private school specifically for Chinese and Koreans or just Asians in general. What the fuck? Okay.
Yeah, it's in the San Gabriel Valley area. It's a well-known Asian district, strong population of Chinese and Koreans. So you would imagine a private school catering to the middle upper class families in China and in Korea. It would be an impressive educational institution, because why would you send your kid abroad unless that's what you're doing? But it doesn't really look like the type of place you would have your child fly halfway around the world to attend. In my opinion, it looks so much worse than like 99% of public schools in America. But this is one that you have to pay tuition for. There's no sprawling campus, no state-of-the-art facilities, classrooms with IMAX that we associate with private schools, no Olympic-sized swimming pool like most expensive institutions. Oxford High School is located in the back of a shopping plaza. Imagine your local American shopping plaza with a Ralph's.
Oh, hell no. Paying all that money and flying your kid across seas to have the campus be in an area like this.
And a nail salon and a Panera Bread, like the true definition of suburbia. The school is behind that plaza. It's not even part of the plaza. The fence facing the mall parking lot is the school's entrance. If you were to walk out of the school from the main gate, you would end up directly in the shopping plaza parking lot. It's just kind of tucked away in the back. The parking lot looks like it would be terrifying to go to at night. The facilities include portable classrooms with foldable tables, 3 worn basketball hoops, a volleyball net, and a soccer goal just sadly sitting on a patch of dead grass. Wealthy parents pay $13,000 a year for their students to attend Oxford High School. That's just tuition. That's not living costs. That's not flights.
$13,000 a year for that.
That's just tuition. That's not living costs. That's not flights. That's not food. Nothing. Just tuition. Which, in my opinion, feels like a really bad deal.
Yeah.
But there is something very fascinating about this place. There are allegedly 140 international students in attendance, mostly from China. This means that this school makes on average $1.8 million a year in just tuition costs alone. Some might have the opinion, and this is just an opinion, not a statement of fact, because I don't have personal ties to this institution, curriculum, or even their financials, but an opinion could be that the school works with parents to get international students F1 student visas, get them into the US. Parents pay tuitions to make sure the visas stay valid because they have to be in school. And it could be, in someone's opinion, that the school's main focus is not necessarily education, but rather the legal status of residency for students. This is purely a theory and opinion I guess one could formulate by looking at the state of the school. It's also rumored that most of the students there do not speak English. And yeah, sure, it's because they just moved, but it might seem to some that this school just does not have the best or the most rigorous curriculum. The students are mostly here in the US without their parents, and they live in what's called homestays. Homestays are a huge part of the international student experience.
So the school is mostly just a front to get children citizenship in America. Is that what she's saying? And that's why they charge so much money. Like, hey, you give us the money, you give us $13,000 a year, and we'll just accept it. We'll accept your child, okay? Even though we're a private school and we're demanding $13,000 a year in tuition, we're not a hard school. You just pay us that money, give us your kid, and then boom, visa.
Homestays are a huge part of the international student experience. And I think it's kind of wild when you truly sit there and think about it because of just how unregulated the system is. Families in America, regardless of their ethnicity, I think they just have to have permanent residency or citizenship. They go to
like, it's not difficult to get in. Like, you just pay the price and then boom, you're in. Yeah.
Agency, regardless of their ethnicity. I think they just have to have permanent residency or citizenship. They go to agencies, apply to be a homestay family. That means they will let an international student, usually middle, high schooler, come stay with them on a student visa. They will give them their own room in the house. They will feed them every day. They will in turn receive an agreed upon amount by the student's family, who are usually still in their home country. Legally, the homestay family will be registered as the student's legal guardians in the United States. The part that's wild is sometimes they don't even speak the same language, the homestay families and the international students. In order to qualify, you do a few background checks. You talk about what kind of food you're going to provide for the student, what language is spoken in the home, and that's it. It's not like a foster home where the parents are more or less responsible for the kid's well-being and they're required to take on some level of parenting, or adoption where you have to provide every aspect of parenting possible. Most homestay families, this is not a dig at them. It's just the way that I think the quote contract or situation is usually set up. Most of the students' parents don't want the homestay families to take on parenting roles. They just want an adult in the house, a supervisor. This is purely anecdotal evidence, but from the Korean homestay situations I've personally witnessed, the younger the homestay students are, the more the homestay families will try to be pseudo-parents by encouraging them to sleep, eat healthier, sleep earlier, study more. But because the student is also how the homestay family gets paid, they don't want to overstep their boundary. They don't want to say too much. They want to keep the student somewhat happy. Usually the student's parents don't even want that. They just want the homestay parents to act like adult supervisors. Usually high school homestay kids, the most that I've seen, the most parenting I've seen them get from their homestay families was just enforcing curfew. That's it. They truly didn't care too much about their grades even. But even then, they can't really get mad at the student for not following curfew. So it's kind of like, you're enforcing it, but are you really? There's actually a name for this. The students are referred to as parachute kids because the parents from their home country will just ship them off to a new country with a parachute and hope that they land correctly.
Yo, it's fucking Fortnite, dude. They just ship their kids over, shoot them out the plane like Fortnite, and then they just get their visa. Their parents are in China. They don't give a fuck.
The main incentive of this, because it sounds crazy when you just think about it from this perspective, but if you're studying in middle school...
Because when you think about it, it's funny, but that's literally what they did. They just shipped their kids off to America with a fuck ton of money because they're rich, just so that they can say, hey, look, my kid studied in America. Boom, instant status symbol.
Because it sounds crazy when you just think about it from this perspective. But if you're studying in middle school or high school in the United States, it is much easier to get into an American college than if you went to high school in Korea or China, for example. So if you're trying to apply to UCLA, way easier if you're a high school student in the US. And once you get into that American college, so much easier for your life here. Get citizenship, have more opportunities in the US, specifically China and Korea. I know a lot of people want to send their children to study in the US, not because like, oh my God, US supremacy or anything, but just the sheer amount of competition in those countries, the work environment where you legally only work 50 hours, but you probably work like 100 hours a week. The competition to get even a low-paying job is so cutthroat and miserable. Unless you have money and connections, it's a miserable life.
Yeah, that's true. Also, no wonder they end up being so smart when they come over, like these exchange students. They grow up in this very miserable and cutthroat curriculum in school, like all throughout K through 12. But like once they get to the college level or once they graduate high school, they're like, fuck, we don't come from the Samsung family or something. Like I'm going to be working basically until I die nonstop every day, 24/7. You're kind of just expected to conform. So they come to America basically for an easier life because they're escaping that miserable work culture over in Asia. They're literally smurfing NA servers.
Unless you have money and connections, it's a miserable life. It's definitely a hard life. And I'm not saying it's easy anywhere in the world, right? But it's a unique work environment that a lot of parents don't really want their children to experience because they themselves have experienced it. So they send their kids to places like America, and sometimes it really does work. A lot of homestay kids, they understand the purpose of being here. So they're super self-motivated. They get into great universities. They become a very strong contributing member of society here. Whereas other parachute kids, the other extreme, they end up in schools only to hang out with other rich parachute kids. They never learn English. They create their...
Hey, this is your local Starbucks, bro. If you walk into a Starbucks and this is the staff, your coffee gonna be good as fuck.
They end up in schools only to hang out with other rich parachute kids. They never learn English. They create their own mini societies in the school. They drive around in Mercedes, no curfew, no rules, no parents. They stay out past 2 a.m. on school nights, spend their time at karaoke bars, Chinese tea houses. They're drinking, they're smoking, they're spending their allowance on anything that they want that their parents pay them. And they also have a tendency to try and replicate some of the bullying environment that you might see in other places. And again, this is not a dig at like China or anything. I think different countries just have different ways they handle bullies. So I know in China and in Korea, bullies are often handled on the school level. In America, bullying is technically a crime. So if there's assault, it's happened on the legal level, regardless of if you're in school or not, if that makes sense. So there is that slight difference.
Oh, so you think that's going to be like the reason behind them bullying? They're going to bully here in America thinking that shit's going to be like China. Like, oh, it's just going to be handled by the school, whatever. But when they find out that America takes it more seriously and it's like a whole legal thing, they're going to be like, oh shit, this is not like China, bro.
I don't think one is better than the other. I guess it's up for you to decide, but just a little difference. Now, most of the high schoolers at Oxford, they fall into this latter category. They have their own unsupervised society within the school. None of them have parental supervision at home. It doesn't seem like the teachers and administrators at the school are even that involved in their lives. There were 86 students. The option to make friends, build new connections, super limited. And so what happens when you're stuck in this group and you're developing and you've got all this teenage angst and no supervision, no guidance, a lot of drama unfolds. There's a lot of tension and cliques within the 86 students. And it feels more heightened. It feels higher stakes because each friend group, they need an enemy to stay together. I'm going to explain the dynamics in a second, but they do not have supervision at this school or at home. Okay, just to give you like a visual picture, and I'm not judging them, but a lot of them would wear stilettos to school. They would smoke cigarettes in the parking lot, literally right outside the door at school. Which, can you imagine doing that? That's ballsy. They would skip class to go drive their Mercedes and drink at tea houses, underage drink. It seemed like it got to the point where a few of them even lost touch with reality. Like they have no idea how consequences and how the real world works. They think this is the world, this little school, this environment, that's it. Or at least that's how Helen felt. She was Lord of the Flies.
Oh, you know what? That's true. That's an interesting psychological thing to analyze. These kids, again, remember, these kids are being shipped from China where, I mean, that's where they lived. That's where they grew up. Because they're familiar with China, obviously, they speak the language, everything, blah, blah, blah. Their world in China is all of China. But when they come to America, very privileged with all the money, with fancy cars, going to this expensive school. As a foreigner, do you think they're going to really venture out of the school to go see the realities of America, to go really be in American society? No, their whole world is basically this school. So everybody just wants to be top dogs in this tiny little world that they're in America.
Helen was queen bee. She was one of the richer ones at the school. Back in China, her parents bought her a Maserati. She was always seen driving around in a BMW. She hated on cars lesser than hers. Like recently, her parents had bought her a Lexus and she hated it. Lexuses are luxury vehicles, by the way. But she wrote on social media about her parents bought her a Lexus and quote, dude, this is such a stupid fucking car. I'm gonna fucking go insane driving this car.
Bro, it's like those TikToks.
Yeah. And just like Jack from Lord of the Flies, she needs an enemy to keep the rest of her group behind her because she's not going to do it with her stellar personality. They need a purpose, something to talk about on a daily basis, someone that they're up against. Because if there's no common enemy, then the one in charge, Helen, naturally becomes enemy number one for the rest of the group. It would only be natural for them to slowly want to dethrone Helen. So she needs to have a mission for them to all look towards. And that person is Camellia. Helen noticed most people from her group were from Shanghai. Camellia was not from Shanghai. So she told them, Camellia talks shit about everyone from Shanghai, how every Shanghainese person is trash. She looks down on Shanghai. I have no idea if Camellia ever said anything disparaging towards Shanghai. I don't know where she's from or if this is just a big misunderstanding. I feel like I can see Helen saying something along the lines of, well, this is how we do it in Shanghai. And Camellia being like, well, that's kind of dumb. Like, I don't think she's saying this is how Shanghainese people do it. But just like, you know, she bullies someone and she's like, this is what it's like in Shanghai. And Camellia might be like, that's dumb. And instead of taking it as is, Helen, you're being stupid for being a bully, she could have turned around and told everyone, Camellia said Shanghai and everyone from Shanghai is stupid. Helen and the girls would post on Facebook and social media, who gave that bitch the audacity to offend everyone from Shanghai? Another one reads, motherfucker, I'm so pissed off. Does she eat more shit than she eats salt? How can every word that comes out of her mouth be shit? She dares offend everyone from Shanghai? Her fucking audacity.
How vulgar. Oh my God. How could she spit out shit like that? Does she eat more shit than we eat salt? Like, oh my God.
At this point, it becomes very clear to Camellia, whether or not she said something mean towards Shanghai or not, Helen is targeting her. Looking back, it seems like Camellia had made a comment on Helen's picture once. And okay, so this started a year ago. 1 year before the crime, Helen had posted an overly intimate picture with one of Camellia's exes. Camellia clearly trying to make Camellia jealous and annoyed. Camellia saw it and she responded in the comments, these are the guys that I'm done playing with. Insinuating that Helen was getting her leftovers, which, okay, yeah, not the nicest thing to say, but it's just
High school girl drama over boys, hell yeah.
a tiny taste of Helen's own medicine. She is the evil queen of the school. She physically beats students on a weekly basis. It's time someone put Helen in her place, right? Helen did not think so. She waged a year-long war against Camellia, and there is
She said, "You're having my
option for someone
sloppy
like Helen
seconds,
to fight.
bitch."
Avoid them at all costs. Like, if you don't, they will find something else to have a problem with. Did you accidentally breathe too loud near them? Did you stare at her for 2 seconds too long? She will point it out and blow it out of proportion and try to spin it to be something that it's not. Like what happened to Mai. 2 days before Helen was kidnapped, Mai was one of the students at the school, and she saw Helen bullying her friend outside. Mai runs over, gets in between Helen and her friend, and everything just goes pin silent. Like, you could hear a pen drop. Something snaps in Helen. It's almost this mixture of excitement on torturing someone, but also a mixture of pure anger that someone even dared to stop her from doing what she wanted to do. Helen gave Mai one single warning. That's all she would get. Get out of my way. Mai grabbed her friend's arm and walked away. The next day in class, in front of everyone, Helen walked straight up to Mai and slapped her across the face. Everyone got quiet and pretended like they didn't see because they didn't want to say anything because they would be next. Helen put her arm around Mai like a good old friend, brought her outside, drove Mai to the quiet corner of the parking lot in the plaza, and started beating her, kicking her in the ribs, punching her in the face. John, Helen's boyfriend, is just standing there watching her.
Dude, why is this type of bullying so common in Asia? How often do we hear here in America bullying stories like this? Like, just I've seen bullying in movies, but I've never actually heard of these big stories of students beating up other students like as a gang and then whatever. It's just like so common in East Asia, it seems like, or just Asia in general.
You are? How dare you snoop around in our matters? You should get to know who you're messing with. I'll make you remember today. She accused Mai of being disrespectful and needing to be taught a lesson. Mai was beaten for over an hour. Her arms were covered in cigarette burns. Her entire face was swollen, and when Mai went back home, she was with homestay parents. She was terrified that if her homestay parents saw her state, her condition, they would call the police. Then Helen would find out that she, quote, ratted them out, and it would just cause more bullying and more problems at school. So Mai wore a face mask all day at home until her whole face healed and she avoided her guardians at all costs. The mentality that a lot of the kids at this school, Oxford High, would develop was, Helen's not going to stop. There's no consequences. So you're just going to get beat up. Just get it over with. Just crawl into a fetal position, hope that Helen's not extra angry that day, and then get it over with and then stay out of her way. She'll move on to the next victim. Mai was not the first victim either. There were so many before her. Helen just beat whoever she felt like, whenever she felt like. If you looked at her the wrong way, if you accidentally stepped on her foot in class, you would be beat. What's crazy is the teachers and administrators, even if they know what's going on, they did nothing to stop it or even to reprimand the students. There were literally no consequences. Because the school makes money with more children being enrolled and the tuition for one international student is 3 times that of a domestic student, and because international students support the majority of Oxford High, the administrators allegedly just closed their eyes and let Helen be. But of course, that's not going to help Helen.
Oh, damn, that's even worse. The school there in California even behaved like an Asian school, like a Chinese school. They didn't give a fuck. They didn't care about the whole bullying thing going on because they were like, are we really going to report her and get her expelled or something? Their family's paying good money. Okay, now let's just let it slide. Let's just let Helen beat up people for no reason. Basically, they were living in a mini China world.
All she knew was, what are consequences? There's no such thing as consequences. Her behavior, her bullying, her temper, her violence, it got so bad that she went through multiple different homestay families. She was kicked out to the curb multiple times. The host families, they called her parents like, I can't do this anymore. Your child is out of control. She's like a ticking time bomb. I don't feel safe with her in my house. Helen's parents were not alarmed. They just found a new host family and sent Helen more allowance to help her emotionally recover from being kicked out of the mean host family's houses. Helen did not even let it bother her because she's the queen of the flies. So Camellia tries to skip a few days of school and diffuse the situation. She hopes maybe Helen would find someone else to bully, or maybe she would forget about it. But instead, Helen posts on social media. Stupid bitch doesn't even dare come to school because she's scared. Haha.
Whoa, this girl is evil. She was posting that on social media with this kind of face on her. Like she's kind of grinning. This is actual harassment.
2 days after Mai was assaulted, Camellia received a text message from a girl named Lou to come meet her at an ice cream shop. She hoped it would be Helen or the girls handing out an olive branch, but it was not. That night, Camellia would be driving with way too many high school girls jam-packed in the back seat. They're all sitting on top of each other in the back. Nobody's using a seatbelt. If Camellia got pulled over, she would have been arrested. There were way too many people in the back of her car, legally speaking. Camellia almost wished she was pulled over. She's gripping her steering wheel. Her knuckles are turning white. One by one, she's dropping off the girls. And each time, they would smirk, thank Camellia for a great time and for the ride, and said that we should do it again sometime. They would slam the door shut. Camelia would not even look at them. She would just stare straight ahead at the road, expression dead, knuckles white, focusing on the steering wheel. She just needed to hold it in like a tiny bit longer. She just had one more girl to drop off. The one right next to her in the front seat.
Don't tell me Helen. Don't tell me it's Helen in the passenger seat. No.
Helen.
No. Damn it. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so good at guessing, but I hate that I'm right.
When she pulled up in front of Helen's car, Helen said, "Thanks for the ride." But she pauses and turns to Camelia and says, "You know, if you tell anyone what happened, I'm going to tell everyone that it was your best friend who did this to you, not us. And every single one of those girls that you dropped off, they're going to back me up. It'll be 12 against your word. Do you really want your best friend to go to jail?" And with that, Helen smirks and gets out of the car. Camelia felt exhausted and numb. From 7 p.m. to 12 a.m., the 12 high schoolers had tortured her.
I feel so bad. I hate cases like this where abuse was done to you. And like, even though you're technically free to go back to your home or wherever, you're trapped internally, emotionally, mentally. You feel trapped because you can't say anything.
So Camelia thought, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet. At least she's asking to meet me in a very public place. It's an ice cream shop. But just as a precaution, Camelia asks her best friend Albert to come with her, so it just wouldn't be so awkward and weird. On the way there, Camelia is kind of feeling better about the whole thing. She's thinking, you know what? They're friends with Helen. Maybe Helen's over it. Maybe Helen wants to have some sort of like peace meeting. Maybe she's going to sit there and be like, Helen wants to have a nice chat with you. Like, I think she feels bad. And then Camelia would be like, you know what? I feel bad. And they could all be better again. But the minute that they walk in through the ice cream shop doors, they know that's not what's going to happen. Camelia felt her heart drop because sitting right next to Lou with a smirk on her face is Helen and her boyfriend, John. They smile and they wave at Camelia. And now it's way too late to turn around because then what? What are they going to say at school then? It would just make things worse, more awkward, more uncomfortable, probably more violent. Maybe her and Albert could sit down, push through all of this, share an ice cream. It would be so awkward, but at least it'd be less awkward than running out right now, right? Camelia did not have time to think about her options. Albert sat down, oblivious, like clueless to how bad all of this was about to get. Camelia trails along, sits down. She assumes because we're in such a public space, it's going to be safe, right? Before Albert can even bite his ice cream, Helen turns to him and asks, "You should leave." What? I think what we're about to talk about should really just be left between girls. It's a girl matter, which is weird because Helen's boyfriend is sitting right there.
Don't leave.
But
Albert, please don't leave. Don't leave Camelia with that demon.
Idea if Albert had any clue what Helen had planned for Camelia, but he got up, took his ice cream, and left Camelia alone at the ice cream shop. But still, it's a public space, right? Camelia sat there trying to just stare at her lap, thinking of all the excuses she could try to use to leave, but Helen's already on her phone calling her friends one by one. In front of Camelia, asking them
Oh shit, she's summoning the gang. No.
to come to the ice cream shop. Her best friend Coco was the first to pick up, and she smirked when she heard Helen was with Camelia, and she stated over the phone.
Oh, Coco is the
"I'll be there
other
in a
girl
minute."
that was arrested.
In total, there were 12 of them. Helen, her boyfriend, and 10 of Helen's little minions, including her right-hand wing woman, Coco. Something to note, these are all international students whose parents are from China. Most of them are from Shanghai, and all of them, for whatever reason, hate Camelia. Camelia thought, okay, now there's no point of trying to make it less awkward. It feels like life or death. She just needs to get out of here. She gets up to leave, but before she can, she feels this cold hand on her arm.
Oh.
What are you doing? We have a full day planned ahead of us.
Is it Coco?
Helen puts her arm around Camelia and guides her to the cars outside. They're going to take a quick visit to the park, Roland Heights Park. Camelia tries to fight back and verbally says no, but they're basically kidnapping her. They arrive at the park at 7 p.m. Most families made it back home. The sun is setting. They choose a very remote area. I mean, most people don't even venture off and hike into this part. They drag Camelia out of the car, throw her onto the floor, and they make the next 5 hours a living hell. They throw ice cream on the ground. Clean it up. They start smearing it with their stilettos. Use your hands. If she misses a spot, a high-heeled shoe would lift up from the ground and smash into her rib. One of the high schoolers took Camelia's phone and started smashing it into pieces in front of her on the ground.
You know, that's always been an irrational fear of mine. Like, I would never want to feel this. Being stomped on by a heel. Like those like sharp heels that some women be wearing. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. That looked like it would hurt so bad.
Stomping her heels into it. Another girl kicked her in the back of the knees so that she was kneeling in front of them. And Helen laughed. But of course, in the beginning, Helen didn't even lift a finger. She just stood there, arms folded across her chest, literally like Queen of the Flies, instructing her little minions where to beat, where to punch, where to kick. Coco's standing a little bit behind Helen, smoking a cigarette. I mean, these two girls, they genuinely think that they're in some sort of gangster movie. And I mean, the only thing I can say is play stupid games, win stupid prizes. They supervise the torture of Camelia. Eventually, one of the girls brings over a giant jug of cold water, and Helen nods in approval. They pour it all over Camelia. Her entire hair and body are drenched in cold water, and at this point, the sun has set, and LA, it gets pretty cold at night. It's getting really chilly. I mean, of course, that's the least of Camelia's worries, but just to give you more context on how miserable this experience is. Helen sees Camelia holding on to herself, shivering. She says, "Someone take off her clothes." For a second, everyone went quiet.
Yeah, they're weird, bro. It always comes down to nudity. I swear to God, mob mentality or like group mentality, it always ends up in somebody getting their clothes ripped off. I swear, like, I don't know why it always ends up there.
But maybe they also thought it was weird that Helen's boyfriend John was there too. And Helen has notoriously been a very, very jealous girlfriend. Why would she want her boyfriend to see another girl naked?
Ooh.
Coco straightened her shoulders and said, "I'll do it." She asked two of the other girls to hold Camelia's arms while she was kneeling on the ground, and Coco forced all of her wet clothes off of her. So now Camelia is kneeling in the cold, completely nude, in a public park. A huge speculation on this part. A few things. Up until this point, actually till the very freaking end, Camelia never once showed weakness. She tried fighting back, and then eventually she stopped fighting back. She was severely outnumbered. She realized it's not going to work. But she did, in a sense, like that, submit to the torture that's happening because there's no way out of it. So it's not submitting to the torture. It's being smart about it, right? But she never cried. She never begged for them to stop. She never complimented Helen in hopes of winning her over, saying like, "Please, you're right. I'm going to listen to you. You're the queen bee." She just stared dead into their souls. And perhaps Helen thought getting her completely naked in public was going to degrade her to a new bottom, a new low, where she would finally submit and beg or cry.
Yeah, see, it's always that sense of having domination over somebody, humiliating them, getting them to do whatever you want. I still find it weird though how it always boils down to nudity. I guess it's because it's like the most vulnerable state to get somebody in, like to get them to strip themselves, to be naked, like they're exposing their most private parts, like, you know what I mean? So I guess that's why.
A new low where she would finally submit and beg or cry. But it didn't work. Camelia never gave in. So Coco removed the cigarette from her mouth, stared at it, smirked, walked over to naked Camelia and started burning it all over her chest and her nipples. She would hold it in place, waiting for Camelia to scream or cry, but she would not. The other girls joked, "We should take it slower so we can last longer." You know, step.
Yeah, see, like, I'm sorry. Anytime it gets to like doing stuff to private parts, there is a little bit of fetishization there, or like a little bit of sexualization there on the abuser's part. I just refuse to believe. Like, you're weird. You're weird to me. It's very degenerate behavior.
Coco would joke, "You think you're tough, right? Eventually, everyone breaks." Helen is standing there watching all of this with her arms crossed, and she's seething, just dripping with hatred, like this disgusting yearning for power that she was not getting from this abuse. One of the girls notices that Helen is losing her patience, and in an effort to prove herself to the queen, she brings out her lighter and suggests they just light Camelia on fire. Helen smiles and nods. They hold Camelia down, who again is not crying, not begging, not groveling at their feet. They try to light her hair on fire, but because these people had just soaked her completely in water, it doesn't work. Helen stared at all the parts of Camelia's chest that were basically burned and mutilated by Coco, but it just wasn't enough. Because now Helen's thinking, she could hide these behind clothes. She could wear clothes to school tomorrow and no one would know. If we can't light her hair on fire, let's just cut it all off. She turns to her boyfriend and asks him to go home to fetch a pair of scissors. He leaves, goes home.
No way, he goes all the way home to grab scissors and then comes back to give it to them. Remember how at the beginning of the video, Stephanie said that one of the arguments from the parents was like, he just gave him scissors. Why would he get in trouble for giving scissors? Bro, he went home. I thought this was gonna take place in the classroom or something, so he would just like look over at a drawer and grab them. You'd have a better case then. But this motherfucker went all the way home to grab them and then came back? Hell no, that is 100% accessory to abuse or whatever.
Home to fetch a pair of scissors, brings it back. I mean, I'm truly at a loss for what kind of relationship this is. I feel like you would imagine girls like Helen would be pick-me's and only show this evil side to all the girls, but hide it from the boyfriend and act like a soft little girl in front of them. But the fact that she's showing this side to her boyfriend and he's dutifully going to grab the scissors, it's so bizarre.
Bro's literally her dog.
It's so bizarre. He comes back with the scissors, and finally Helen kneels down, stares at Camelia's face, and she just starts roughly chopping off all her hair, throwing it onto the dirty, sticky, ice cream melted gravel beneath Camelia, and tells her, "Eat it. I'll let you go home if you eat it all." Camelia freezes, still no tears, no begging. She goes to grab a fistful of hair with her hands, but they stop her. And Helen says, "With your mouth." like a dog.
Oh, ew, what the fuck? Also, isn't it impossible to actually digest hair?
The other girls take that as a cue to smash Camelia's face into the ground, making her eat her own hair along with sand. She's still unclothed, soaking wet, with burn marks, bruises all over her body. And when they're done, they made her drop them all off. March 30th, 2015, a 911 call was placed after midnight. On the other end was a soft, weak girl's voice. She was not crying, she was not hyperventilating. It seemed like she was very confident of what she was saying, but she just did not have enough energy to say it loudly. She just sounded exhausted. But the message was clear. My name is Camelia. I had just been kidnapped and beaten for 5 hours by my classmates. Please help me. Police arrive at the scene, pick up Camelia.
AW Camelia, she was really strong throughout all of that. She wasn't like giving them what they wanted by begging, crying, etc. And then she still, after that, was able to say, hey, fuck this, I'm calling the cops. In these types of cases, I wouldn't even blame her if she couldn't call the cops because she was so scared of the possible consequences that would follow that if the cops didn't make an arrest or something.
They get ambulances. I mean, there was no question if her story was true or not. Her hair was extremely choppy, like someone had turned off the lights in the bathroom and just started lifting up strands of hair and just blindly chopping, not even caring if the scissors were going to cut her face. Every part of her hair was like an inconsistent length. Her entire body and face were covered in bruises. Her face, hands, and feet were so swollen she couldn't even stand. She had burn marks all over her body, and every time she tried to sit up, stand on her own, she was wobbling like a baby giraffe. Her entire body looked damp, as if she just got out of the lake 30 minutes ago but never had a towel, so she was forced to air dry. The police were just unnerved. They're thinking, can this really be the work of high schoolers? The nurses almost winced when they gave her a more thorough examination.
Even the cops were like, what the fuck?
They tried to
These
ask her
people
about
aren't
her
normal.
pain levels, because pain is a subjective thing. So a lot of hospitals, they have pain level scales. They're just trying to see where your pain tolerance is and how much pain you're in right now. Most pain scales are from 0 through 10. So a score of 0 means no pain. 10 is like the worst pain you've ever felt in your life. So 0, no pain. 1, pain is noticeable, but then like you don't really think about it. It's like a paper cut, you know? If you think about it, it hurts, but if you don't, you forget. 2 is minor pain. Maybe a paper cut when you have to run it underwater. It's that like, annoying pain. 3, noticeable pain, but you can still distract yourself. Maybe if you play a video game. 4, moderate pain. If you're involved in a high intensity activity, you can ignore the pain for a little while. 5, moderately strong pain. You cannot ignore the pain for more than a few minutes. You will be like, oh my God, I'm in pain. 6, you're in a lot of pain and you're still trying to do your normal day-to-day activities, but you're not performing well. You can't concentrate on anything but your pain. 7, strong pain. You cannot do your normal activities. 8, very strong pain. It's hard to do anything at all. 9, you can't even hold a conversation with someone because you're screaming in pain. 10, the worst amount of pain imaginable. It's interesting. Doctors say the pain scale is just part of what they're looking for. So it's not just the number that you say. They'll actually analyze your breathing, your blood pressure while you talk about your pain. They take into consideration if you were just calm, giggling, or asleep 2 seconds ago before you rate your pain a 10 out of 10. So there's a lot of factors that they consider.
Have you guys ever felt 10 out of 10 pain? I don't think I've ever experienced pain that high. So if I had to be super honest, I don't think I've ever had pain on a 10, like 10 out of 10.
So there's a lot of factors that they consider, but it was clear a lot of Camelia's injuries were between 8 to 10. And nobody would question that. Her injuries were really bad, and they were all inflicted by high schoolers. When Helen was arrested, she looked really bored. She looked really arrogant, like it's not that big of a deal. All she has to do is pay a fine or pay the victim some money, shut them up, be on their merry way. So why are all these cops pretending to like go through these motions? She turned to the head officer when she was arrested and said, how long do you think this is gonna take? I gotta go home, back to China for my 19th birthday later this month.
Yeah, dude, these kids are so fucking spoiled. You can just easily tell. Like they're being arrested for abusing their poor classmate. Can this all be over by my birthday, please? God, I hate spoiled rich kids, bro. If I ever have kids and I'm like, let's say I've made it to a point in my life where I'm pretty wealthy, you know, I have a good amount of money. I am not spoiling or saying yes to everything my kid wants. Like I will not be raising a bitch.
They just smiled at her because they're like, there's no way this girl is going home for her 19th birthday. She's probably going to be in prison. They didn't tell her that, though. They just let her slowly find out. Bail was set at $3 million each for Helen, Coco, and John. So there were 12 bullies. I mean, it was really easy to find them. Most of them went to Oxford High with Camelia. She knew who they were.
$3 million bail.
6 were arrested the very next day. What about the other 6? They fled the country.
Ooh, so wait, what? Oh, so 6 successfully left the country. They fled. It was only those 3 that got caught.
3 of the 6 that were caught were minors, so we don't have their names. The other 3 were above the age of 18. We have Helen, her boyfriend John, and Coco. Side note about the 6 that fled the country, technically they're gonna have no consequences. 0 consequences. China will not be trying them for the crime because it took place in America. The only thing, I guess, is if they ever set foot in America again, they will be arrested at the airports. But still, that's not really a consequence compared to what they did to Camellia. Meanwhile, the parents of the 6, the 3 minors, the 3 adults, they all really wanted the torture charges taken off. Because torture for adults carries a life sentence with the possibility of parole, at least for the adults. One of the attorneys even tried to argue for Helen, Coco, and John. He stated, I'm
Hey,
sure
let's go,
these
life
kids suffer from
sentence.
loneliness. So they bond with other kids in the small Chinese circles with no supervision, no one to turn to for assistance. So these things, they can get out of control. John's attorney threw Helen and Coco under the bus and basically stated he's merely a bystander. All he did
Bro is not like Yagami. Wait, this is the simp, right? Is this the simp that went all the way home to grab scissors for Helen?
Coco's attorney threw Helen under the bus, and they stated, Coco is more of a follower than a leader. She's a very young girl. She's not mature enough to evaluate everything happening in the park and make a more thoughtful, careful decision. Everyone was trying to point the finger at Helen, who honestly could not care less. Like the minute that she stepped into that courtroom, she's smirking, she's giggling, she's making like sexy eyes at her boyfriend John. She is not taking
Yo. Ew. She's trying to seduce Light Yagami. Walmart Light Yagami in the courtroom.
any of this seriously. She is not afraid. She just has this cocky expression on her face that a lot of people describe as wanting to punch it off of her.
Oh my God. Bro, hey, she's lucky she wasn't in high school with me. I mean, I was also chopped, to be honest, in high school. But nah, man. If there's one thing I picked up from being on a soccer team with other high school boys, I learned how to roast. I would make this girl cry.
She acted like, what's the big freaking fuss, everyone? Jeez. When Camellia went up to the stand to give her statement, Helen kept interrupting her and commenting on her statement, glaring at her, trying to intimidate her to shut up. You would think that Camellia was giving a science project speech and Helen is bullying her in class, which is still horrendous, but it's kind of unimaginable that someone is doing this in the courtroom. She's cussing at Camellia in front of the judge while she's on trial for trying to set Camellia on fire. The looks she's giving Camellia were so heinous, the judge warned her, you gotta stop or else. These are the 3 that pled not guilty. Later, Helen's attorney...
So she was attacking Camellia verbally even in the courtroom as she was on trial. Dude, what the fuck is up with Helen? Hey, this is not China, okay? You in America.
argue mental illness. I mean, I guess Helen was beyond helping, so he really has no choice, but he's like, clearly she's ill. During psychiatric evaluations, it was determined that she was in a completely stable mental state at the time of the incident and capable of bearing responsibility. Helen's attorney read her statement in court, which Helen thought was going to help her case. Side note, Helen seems really, really upset about the fact that the internet hates her. So she thought not only would this get the judge to see her for who she really is, which is like this sweet, kind person, but the internet would fall in love with her after this too. Let me know if you think it worked. Helen wrote, Your Honorable
Holy narcissist.
Judge, attorney, and everyone concerned. I sincerely apologize to everyone. I am so sorry. I have made a terrible mistake, and there's nothing I can do to make things better for the people that I've hurt. I accept full responsibility for my behavior, and I hope my consequences are a lesson that helps others avoid making similar mistakes. I'm not a bad person. This case is about 2 days of my life. I wish I could go back in time and wake up the day before this happened and do the right thing, but I know that's impossible, and now I will accept the punishment for what I did. It's very hard for me to say how I feel right now. I feel scared, but also glad that this case is over. I wanted to improve myself, stay out of trouble, and even earn a college education while in prison. I'm a good student. I know education is important for my future when I'm released, and while I was in jail during awaiting this trial, I not only worked on my schoolwork, but I began studying the Bible every day. I know that Jesus will help guide me through my stay in
The classic monster to religion pipeline. I swear to God, every time somebody out of nowhere starts finding God, like out of nowhere, they're probably about to get arrested for some heinous shit. Have you guys noticed that? Even in real life, like here in America, every time I see somebody like on social media, somebody who's a monster, all of a sudden saying that they're seeking God, they end up being a pedophile or like a rapist or something. I swear to God, I put that on my life. That happens so often.
I not only worked on my schoolwork, but I began studying the Bible every day. I know that Jesus will help guide me through my stay in prison and for the rest of my life. I know he has seen the changes in me and seen the remorse in my heart. I just feel so regretful, and I have sought forgiveness, and I hope to earn it. As I said, I'm not a bad kid. If I am judged based on the 2 days out of my 19 years that got me into so much trouble, I must look like the worst person in the world. I have read that I am hated here and in China. I probably deserve to be viewed that way.
Yeah.
But the other and better side of me is a person who tries to help other people.
No.
People who know me, they write nice letters about me.
No.
They know that I'm a young lady who loves and helps others in every way that I can.
No.
While in jail, I've helped others learn better English and even Spanish.
In jail, I've helped other women lose weight. You wanna know how? Because they look at me and it makes them vomit in the trash can after they see my disgusting face.
I've received honors from jail for my studies. I always look forward to receiving new books to read from my mother. I want to thank my parents. Is this an Oscar-winning speech or is it like...
Yeah.
I want to thank my parents for helping me through this part of my life, especially my mother who has traveled back and forth to China to visit me in jail. I owe everything to my parents. I know I've let them down, but I promise I will someday make them proud again.
Yo.
They sent me to the...
Hey, yo, I got cheapo Zempic for y'all. Just go look at Helen.
But I promise I will someday make them proud again. They sent me to the United States for a better life and a better education. Along with that came a lot of freedom. In fact, too much freedom that I just wasn't used to. In China, I was very obedient and cheerful while living with my parents. Here, I became lonely and lost. I didn't tell my parents how I felt because I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want them to worry about me. I wish I told them how I felt. I took all that stress and carried all the emotions by myself without saying a single word. I'm sure my emotions began to take over, and I did bad things to people. I reflect on my behavior and I ask, how could I have done such bad things? I have no answer except to say, there's no excuse and no one to blame but myself. I really miss my family, my friends, and the little things in life that we don't really think a lot about until we lose them. Life is
Bro, this apology just needs a ukulele and then it'll be complete.
not only about having the latest iPhone or pretty dresses. Also, when people like make a really heinous action, but they're like, let me tell you what I learned from this. You are in no teaching spot, lady. Like, you are not a motivational speaker, girl. What's going on?
Clock it, Stephanie.
It's
Clock
about
it.
respecting others and being kind and respectful to your parents and everyone else. When I got arrested in this case, I lost those things. I never thought about the consequences. Now I know what bad behavior can do to you and how fast I can lose the love and company of my parents and my freedom. I'm asking those whom I have harmed for forgiveness. I'm deeply sorry. I mean that with all sincerity. I hope they do not carry the wounds from what I did throughout their lives. Please find it in your hearts to forgive me. The whole time the attorney read her statement, Helen had her face covered with paper, so we have no idea what her expression was.
Oh, she didn't read it.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh my dude, that whole apology, that whole YouTuber apology we just heard, Helen didn't even say it herself. It was her attorney that read it. That's crazy.
Covered her face with paper.
Wow.
She just sat there. I mean, I doubt her face looked remorseful. I mean, the fact that she's talking about how she's only being judged for 2 days of her 19 years of living is honestly, arguably, I don't know why her attorney approved it.
Wait, she covered the face?
Yeah, she was like covering her mouth area.
Oh my god, so while the attorney was reading her apology, we don't even know if she read it. She was trying to be all cute and shit, being like this. Nah, bro.
They sent me to the United States for a better life and a fuller education.
Oh,
along with that came a lot of
she's trying not to laugh. She's trying not to laugh, bro. She's doing this, the I show speed face behind that shit, trying not to laugh, because she knows her apology is bullshit.
freedom. In fact, too much freedom that I was not used to. In China, I was very obedient and cheerful living with my parents. Here I became lonely and lost.
I just think sometimes, I don't know why the attorney let this happen. It's just, logically speaking, not the smartest choice. It would take 10 seconds for someone to shoot someone and kill them. Should they be judged for those 10 seconds of their lives? Because 10 seconds is such a short amount of time compared to the 50 years that they didn't shoot someone. Like, what is that argument? And it's...
I totally agree, actually, Stephanie. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to disagree with you. If I drunk drive, which, you know, I love doing that. I do love me some drunk driving. Me hitting a family of 4 in a minivan and killing them, that doesn't disqualify the rest of my 26 years of life where I didn't do that. You know what I mean? So honestly, I should not go to jail whenever I drunk drive. So I'm sorry, Stephanie. That makes actual perfect sense. I'm disagreeing with you.
clear where all these kids are getting it from. None of the parents were any better. One of the dads of the minors was arrested during this trial. He flew from China, got arrested. Why? He tried to bribe the victim to say something nice about his daughter. Tried to give the victim money, hoping that the judge will give all the other kids higher sentences and go lenient on his daughter because the victim would say, this one was the one that was nice. Or she...
That's like the worst thing you could do in a court case. Trying to bribe the victim, bruh.
Yeah, the victim did not fall for it. He was caught trying to bribe the victim, was arrested on suspicion of bribery and obstruction of justice. It only backfired because it only attracted more attention to this case in China. I will say this case blew up a lot more in China than in the US. And for a lot of reasons, Chinese netizens were so disgusted. And it also was a soft point for the nation itself, because there are a lot of, hard relations with the United States. And to have these high schoolers that are Chinese nationals go to the United States, do such heinous things, it was just so disappointing and embarrassing as a nation. So it became a topic of conversation where it's not just a bullying case, but like, what are we doing as parents? Are we headed in the right direction? Is this a good idea for parents?
Well, at least China took it seriously.
Is this a good idea for parents to just like parachute their kids to all these other countries if they can't handle their children? Like, that's not good parenting. And his arrest would only draw more attention to that. The prosecutors would end up dropping the charges because he was technically caught before he could actually pay and bribe the witness. But I think they answered the question that netizens had of, how did the kids even get like this? Yeah, their parents. The answer is their parents. In the end, Helen was sentenced to 13 years in prison, kidnapping, assault, and serious personal injury.
Let's go. Helen lost 13 years of her life over this. Yes.
Coco, who burned Camellia with cigarettes, was sentenced to 10 years, but can get out in 5 years. And then John was sentenced to 6 years in prison, but can get out in 3. The first time the court saw any emotion other than giggly, cockiness, and sexual innuendos and looks between all of them was when their verdicts were read. They sobbed so hard, their whole bodies were shaking. Yeah, I guess they couldn't believe it. According to their defense attorneys, they advised their clients to not appeal because if they continue to fight, they will likely get higher sentences. This was the absolute best outcome that they could have ever wished for, which is infuriating. As for the 3 underage kidnappers, they had a private trial. They were all sentenced to under a year in a juvenile facility, and they will not be deported back to China after they complete their sentence. The 3 adults will be deported back to China. A lot of people were upset about this. There was actually a lot of discourse amongst Americans too about Helen, John, and Coco, and about the American prison system and justice system when it comes to foreign nationals who commit crimes. Some American taxpayers were upset that their taxpayer money is supporting these 3 in jail, and then they just get sent back to their home country. Then others were arguing, actually, no, the American prison system is so miserable, they kind of deserve it. So it was a debate, but these were the most hated high schoolers in China. A lot of Chinese netizens, they did feel very embarrassed on behalf of the nation, but they also were using this as an opportunity to change how they saw things. So there was actually a movement of sorts to have way stricter rules and regulations enforced for bullying in high schools in China, even though this didn't take place in China. So they were saying how this is actually, maybe we should follow that route. So in China right now, if you're caught for bullying, it's amongst the school and administrators. In America, it seems like it was a legal case. We should make it a legal case. And another thing is, the victim ended up suing the 3 adults for, wrongful involuntary captivity or something along those lines, right?
Please tell me she won. I hope Camellia wins that lawsuit.
And it was another conversation in China because for financial compensation for crimes in China, it's really hard to reach a settlement. When an adult causes a death, the victim's family is only compensated typically for funeral expenses. Emotional and mental damage compensations are not as common in China. But in the US, courts are usually more open to taking that into consideration for victims of violent crimes. So China was really enraged about this, and netizens are saying maybe there are a few things that we should also adapt into our legal system because it just doesn't make sense. Which, side note, I don't want to make this like a one country versus another country or a comparison. I think bullying is definitely an international problem. Every country has a lot of work to do to create a safer space for children. I mean, clearly in America, I would hardly call schools a safe space for kids. So safety in schools generally is a global issue that needs to be addressed. So it was a way to have that hard conversation. But this did not stop the internet from ripping Helen, Coco, and John to shreds. Tiffany was even telling me about this, but they called John helmet head hair boy. They ripped apart Helen's statement. One Redditor said, I love how the girl blames her situation on too much freedom when the root cause is too little personality, ethics, and adult supervision. You don't need a boot on your neck and a gun to your back to be a decent human being and do the right thing. Other Chinese netizens joked and laughed about how they were really excited to see what kind of bullying the 3 adults endure in prison, in the US prison system. Other Chinese netizens wrote about how Chinese parents need to do better when sending their children abroad. It's only hurting them, but they convince themselves that this is the best thing that they can do, is provide a better education by being away from them. But what are your thoughts? Do you think a lot of this has to do with the fact that they were left unsupervised in a new country?
No, yeah. I mean, Stephanie didn't want to say outright oh, bullying is way worse in this country than this country because it comes off as oh, America is so much better than every other country. Yeah, I mean, you can talk shit a lot about America. I mean, I'm American. I live in America. But yeah, I mean, we have the problem over here of school shootings, right? It's pros and cons to every country. But what I will say is objectively true. And not even in my opinion. I think it's just based on all the videos that we watch, and I can even look up stats later, but the the magnitude of bullying is definitely a bigger problem, I feel like, in East Asia. I don't know about broader Asia, but East Asia for sure. Like these Korean cases, these Japanese cases, and then this case, it's a Chinese case. I think bullying is a thing that needs to be taken more seriously in East Asia. Teenagers just feel so empowered, again, because things are only handled on the school level over there. It's never raised to a legal level, so they don't take it seriously. They don't care about the consequences. So yeah, that's a video. Thank God that Camellia ended up being okay. Justice was served. Thank you so much, YouTube, for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.